when I do research on you and I look at your digital footprint, and I look at what you've done and songs that you've sang and projects and stuff like that you've been on, there's this feeling of God and a relationship with spirituality. And even in the poem that I wrote, "You're so glad you didn't grow up in church," I'm curious to hear about your journey of spirituality and God and Christ and what that has looked like. And I feel like, to the point that you were saying, it does go back to like your dad and Wichita, Kansas, and all of that. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So I like this question because one of my favorite podcasts is On Being with Krista Tippett. Is this white woman?
Never heard of her.
Oh, she's super dope. And her focus is kind of around the human condition. Like, she's always like, how are humans all the same? Like, what makes us human? And one of the questions that she likes to ask is like, how does she say it? Like, how does she say it? Basically, what is your first memory of like your spiritual life? Basically.
I like that.
Yeah, right. I wish I could say it as eloquently as she did. I'll have to send you an episode. The origin of my spiritual walk is just that, with my father. For years, I used his testimony as my own because I hadn't lived enough life, right, to see the Spirit at work in my own life just yet, right? So watching my father overcome alcoholism, watching him overcome being this, womanizer, watching him evolve and grow all under all by the guidance of the Holy Spirit of Christ, is something that for years I was like, I used his testimony. And then as I was about 18 or so, and I was like, okay, well, when I was living with my mother throughout middle school and high school, and she wasn't a churchgoer or any of those things. And so she did listen to Walk Baby Love every Sunday morning, like some gospel tracks. She's always listening to gospel music.
That's funny.
It's like, she wouldn't call herself saved, but she loved gospel music. But when I hit 18, 19, and, was able to kind of go, I'm driving and I'm coming and going as I please, I had a coworker who became a best friend of mine, Dwayne Littleton, who also passed from cancer just about 2 years ago. Jeez. Matter of fact, just before Kat.
I was going to say, that was around the same.
And I remember when Kat told me that she had cancer, it was a few months later, and she finally told me because she had saw me tweeting about him.
Okay.
And so she was like, well, damn, I don't want to put more on her. Like, he had just passed away. Mm-hmm. And I remember tweeting about, but she saw my tweets, and so she kind of just fell back, and she didn't like want to add more to my plate. Mm-hmm. Or whatever, to my grief. And so Dwayne was in a church at the time, and he was like, you gotta come visit, whatever. So I did. And it's funny, I was just thinking about this the other day, how every Sunday for, months, I was at the altar weeping because there was so much guilt from, I was 18, 19, I'm 19 years old. I had a live-in boyfriend. I was, drinking and smoking and being a young person coming about and finding it. And I mean, the guilt had me at that altar every Sunday slinging snot. And I remember somebody was finally like, sweetheart, you don't have to if you accept Jesus, you're good. The guilt isn't. And it still took me years to really grab a hold of the idea of what sin is. And sin being anything that takes you, I've heard it, anything that takes you out of the presence of God. And what I've come to know is that it's not the act of what you do, it's the guilt associated with any particular thing. And so hell, in my mind, what I've come to know what I'm uncovering and kind of how as I'm still navigating spirituality and learning and unlearning, hell is when it's the guilt and the shame that wrecks our mind, right? So it's not even that it's a place necessarily, but if you die with guilt and shame still on you, then you are tormented
in the
forever,
afterlife.
in the afterlife. And so I'm learning to release, even if I mess up, even if I misstep, even if whatever, I hurt someone's feelings or whatever, I'm learning to not hold on to shame in a way that keeps me bound. And I remember my ex-husband, he's a wise dude. He grew up in church, bless his heart. And even what I now know as the white evangelical church, again, a whole other part of the conversation. But one wise thing that he said, I will never forget, he was like, people are more bound once they get saved than they were when they were in the world. We find ourselves, I can't do this, I can't do that, I can't. You're thinking about all the things that you can't do so that you don't mess up, so that you can still be considered holy. And you find yourself more bound than if you were, when you were in the world and you were doing whatever, you were kind of, right, and you felt more free. And so now my goal is, okay, how do I release the world in a way that maintains my spiritual walk and my growth, but doesn't hold me hostage to righteousness, the idea of righteousness, if that makes sense.
Because then you start to project it, I feel, onto other people as well.
Yeah.
And it's always easier to see the solution in other people's lives and judge them for not doing what they need to do to improve that part than it is for us to sit and look within and be like, this is what I gotta do. But it's the story behind, it's not the act, it's like the cherry on top of it that makes it really as bad as it does. And so you're the first person I've heard share that, because it's a similar belief that I have, that it's the story behind the story. And I don't know if it's like human programming or like how we're set up now to have all the negativity or to assign some type of value of good or bad to something, and then to associate that with the being of the person,
right,
as opposed to just.
Well, you think about it, we're told in the Christian tradition, we've been told that we're inherently sinful.
Yeah, out the gate.
Out the gate. What am I supposed to do with that?
Yeah.
So now everything that I do is bad and I'm striving for good. And that's not true. Like, I honestly don't see that to be true.
What do you think it is then? I agree, but I just want to know.
I feel you.
I just want to know your.
Yeah. And I'm still making sense of all this. I'm still like currently exploring these things, these ideas. And so what I think is that, because when you look at a baby, they're not bad, right? They're not good or bad. They're a baby. We navigate the world, and you think about when a child first starts like lying or like being like deceitful, or it might happen around 3. But that's because all along we're telling them, oh, you can't do that. Don't do that. Nope, stop. No, right? And while it may be a matter of keeping them safe, right? Immediately we're told from the beginning that we're bad. You know, you think about a child exploring and doing things and touching things. Oh, his little badass. Oh, they so bad. What? No. Stop calling them bad. Stop
for exploring.
For doing what children do. They're learning. They're taking in data, right? That's all data when you think about it.
Yep.
So it's not good or bad. But if we're calling them bad from the beginning, and then we get into the spiritual aspect of it, and then we're told, and this just goes back to, we can go real deep and talk about colonization, we can talk about, right? So even when it comes to the word that my father had me in young, you know, at an early age, we're coming to know the truth that it was all written and the word was used in a way to control the masses. again, still kind of exploring what all that
Understood.
is.
Yeah.
I still find some truth in the word. I still found guidance in the word, and surely through the teachings of Christ. But if we are talking about, now my focus isn't so much as being holy and making it to heaven as it is truly seeking to live the way Christ lived, the way. We talk about, the word says, he says, I am the way, the truth, and the life. That means that the way I engage with foreigners, the way that I engage with the powers that be, like all of these things, use my life as an example for how to live yours.
Yeah.
Not don't drink, don't smoke, don't have sex before marriage, don't be gay, don't be. Christ wasn't worried about none of that.
None of it. None of it.
Christ looked at the men who brought the child, the story of the woman, the adulteress, like who the men bring her, and it's like this woman was caught in adultery.
Oh yeah, and
Well, first of all, what y'all doing? Look, why are you watching her?
It's men sleeping with her. They ain't out here.
They ain't out here. You ain't dragging him out. All her 5 husbands who ain't hers, or whatever the word said. Like, and Jesus was like, have y'all gone somewhere?
Yeah.
And so we can go back millennia thinking about the ways men have used the words and culture to maintain power across societies. And no.